you gonna do about that? Not going. I don't give a about how you play it.
The internet is exploding right now, and the shockwaves are tearing through the very foundation of the hip-hop elite. Hollywood is whispering, and for the first time in over 20 years, the whispers aren't about who's on top. They're about who just reached a breaking point. What started as a simple rumor about a legendary rap battle may now be something much bigger, something darker, and something that has reportedly left the king of the South himself, T.I., in a state of complete emotional collapse. Something darker may be unfolding behind the scenes of the Harris household, and the culture is watching in real time as a father's pride collides with a son's unfiltered rage. According to online speculation, the unbreakable exterior of the Grand Hustle empire has finally cracked, and it wasn't a rival rapper or a federal indictment that did it. It was his own blood. Some insiders claim that the recent escalation between T.I.'s son, King Harris, and the notoriously untouchable 50 Cent has gone to a place from which there is no return. Unverified reports suggest that the tension in the Harris home has reached a fever pitch, with T.I. allegedly struggling to reconcile his role as a hip-hop statesman with the chaotic actions of his 21-year-old son. Fans believe we are witnessing a once-in-a-generation shift where the old guard loses control of the narrative. The question isn't just about beef anymore. It's about the soul of a family. Is this the moment the king loses his crown? The streets are talking, the receipts are dropping, and the fallout is nothing short of explosive. To understand why the culture is currently at a standstill, you have to understand the players. On one side, you have T.I., the self-proclaimed king of the South. This is the man who survived the trenches of Bankhead, built a multi-platinum empire, and reinvented himself as a sophisticated philosopher of culture. For years, the Harris family appeared to be the gold standard of hip-hop royalty. With their hit reality shows and public displays of unity, they presented a narrative of a blended family that navigated the treacherous waters of fame with grace and strength. T.I. and his wife, Tiny, were the power couple that couldn't be shaken, standing tall through legal battles and industry shifts. On the surface, everything looked perfect. T.I. was the doting father and the stern mentor. Tiny was the supportive matriarch. But as the cameras kept rolling, fans began to notice the cracks. Specifically, the emergence of King Harris, a young man who seemed determined to carve out a legacy that was far more street than his father's polished image. King wasn't just another celebrity kid. He was a firebrand, often finding himself at the center of viral confrontations that left his father visibly frustrated. Then, you have the antagonist of this narrative, 50 Cent Curtis, Interscope. Jackson is the boogeyman of the music industry. He is the man who took 9 shots and turned them into a billion-dollar brand. For 2 decades, 50 has operated like a digital warlord, using his Instagram account as a weapon to dismantle careers, from Ja Rule to Rick Ross. He has always been considered untouchable because he simply does not care about the rules of engagement. He goes low, he goes personal, and he never, ever backs down. The stage was set for a collision when T.I. reportedly attempted to arrange a versus battle with 50. According to online chatter and various podcast appearances, the two legends had allegedly discussed the event in private, only for 50 to publicly curve the idea, reportedly questioning T.I.'s street credentials. For T.I., a man whose brand is built on respect and honor, this wasn't just a business rejection, it was a public slap in the face. The tension simmered for months. T.I. took to the Club Shay Shay podcast, calling 50 scary for ducking the smoke. In the world of hip-hop, those are fighting words. But 50 Cent didn't respond with a verse. He didn't respond with an interview. He did what he does best. He hit below the belt. He posted a photo of T.I.'s wife, Tiny, that many considered to be a direct attempt to humiliate her. This move changed the temperature of the room instantly. In the code of the streets, families are supposed to be off limits. But 50 Cent has never played by the code. By bringing Tiny into the line of fire, he didn't just provoke T.I. He awakened a sleeping giant in the form of King Harris. The world watched as the Harris family's perfect public image was stripped away, replaced by a raw, unyielding defense of their matriarch. The background was no longer about music. It was about the primal instinct to protect one's own, and the cracks in the Harris empire were about to become canyons. The escalation didn't just happen. It erupted like a volcano that had been dormant for too long. Once that photo of Tiny hit the timeline, the digital landscape transformed into a war zone. Online rumors began to swirl that T.I. was moving in silence, preparing a legal or industry-level response. But while the king was allegedly plotting his move, his son King Harris decided that the time for silence was over. Some fans think that King's reaction was a coordinated effort by the family, but most industry whispers suggest that King went rogue. Alleged leaks, which remain completely unverified, suggested that the Harris household was in total disarray, with T.I. reportedly trying to talk his son down from a ledge of digital destruction. But the king wasn't listening. He launched a counteroffensive that had the internet gasping for air. He didn't just go after 50 Cent's music. He reportedly began digging into the Queen's rapper's most painful history. The escalation reached a fever pitch when King allegedly began referencing 50's childhood trauma, specifically the tragic loss of his mother, Sabrina Jackson. While there is no confirmed evidence that this was a sanctioned move by T.I., the public didn't care. To the world, the Harris family had declared total war. Social media reactions were split. Some applauded King for defending his mother's honor, claiming that if 50 goes low, the only response is to go lower. Others, however, felt that King was crossing a line that even the most hardened veterans of the rap game wouldn't touch. Fan theories began to emerge, suggesting that this wasn't just a beef, but a systematic attempt to dismantle 50 Cent's untouchable persona. Industry whispers grew louder as 50 Cent, for the first time in memory, appeared to be on the defensive. Reports suggest that the sheer vitriol coming from a 21-year-old was something 50 hadn't prepared for. He was used to beefing with peers who had something to lose: labels, sponsorships, reputations. King Harris, according to some fans, seemed like he had absolutely nothing to lose. The escalation wasn't limited to words. Rumors of paperwork and receipts began to dominate the conversation. Every time King posted, hundreds of thousands of people tuned in, expecting a knockout blow. The narrative was no longer about a rap battle. It was a high-stakes game of psychological warfare. Some fans think 50 Cent finally met his match in a young man who grew up in the very spotlight 50 mastered. The digital streets were crowded, the theories were wild, and the escalation showed no signs of slowing down. It was a race to the bottom, and everyone was wondering who would hit the floor first. Then came the moment that changed the tone from a beef to a tragedy. It was the viral live stream that everyone is still talking about. King Harris appeared on camera, his face flushed with an intensity that felt less like clout chasing and more like a genuine emotional break. In the stream, he wasn't just rapping. He was screaming. He was defending his mother with a raw, unfiltered agony that made viewers uncomfortable. It wasn't cool anymore. It was heavy. In a cryptic social media post shortly after, T.I. shared a message about the weight of fatherhood and the pain of watching your children navigate a world that wants to see them fail. Fans began to trend the hashtag Justice for Tiny, but the energy shifted toward T.I. himself. People began to notice a change in his demeanor. The usually poised and articulate rapper seemed weary. A deleted tweet from a close associate of the family allegedly stated, "Tip is hurting." This isn't what he wanted for his sons. The tension in the Harris household was palpable even through the screen. Another live stream showed King in a confrontation that felt dangerously close to home, with T.I. attempting to intervene. The emotional breakdown wasn't just King's. It was the breakdown of the father-son dynamic in front of millions. You could see the desperation in T.I.'s eyes, a man who has spent his life building a legacy, watching his son potentially torch it all in the name of loyalty. Fan reactions were trending toward concern. T.I. looks like he's aged 10 years in a week. One top comment read on a popular gossip blog, "King is hurting his dad more than he's hurting 50, another user posted. The suspense was no longer about who had the better diss track. It was about whether the Harris family would survive this internally. The emotional weight of the situation was compounded by 50 Cent's uncharacteristic silence during this peak of the breakdown. Usually, 50 would be laughing, posting memes, and twisting the knife. But as the footage of King's emotional outbursts went viral, even the biggest troll in the game seemed to pause. The breakdown was so visceral, so undeniably real, that the entertainment value started to evaporate, replaced by the grim reality of a family in crisis. The tension was at an all-time high, and the world was waiting for someone to provide a sense of calm that didn't seem to be coming. As the situation spiraled, the industry response was telling. Usually, when two giants clash, brands and public figures jump at the chance to align themselves with a winner. But this time, the silence was deafening. Major brands that had long-standing relationships with T.I. and 50 Cent suddenly went quiet. There were no collaborative posts, no promotional pushes, just a void. Observationally, several high-profile peers began to unfollow both parties, seemingly wanting to distance themselves from a situation that had become too toxic for corporate comfort. Public figures who are usually quick to drop a fire emoji on a 50 Cent post were nowhere to be found. Instead, many started posting cryptic quotes about protecting your peace and the dangers of the tongue. The media silence from major outlets was also noted by fans. While the blogs were eating it up, the mainstream music press seemed hesitant to touch the story, reportedly fearing the legal and personal ramifications of a beef that had turned so deeply personal. It wasn't just about the music, it was about the potential for real-world consequences. Some observers pointed out that the industry was watching the King of the South lose his grip on his narrative, and in the shark-infested waters of Hollywood, that's when the predators start circling. Despite the lack of official statements, the unfollows spoke volumes. It was as if the industry had collectively decided to hold its breath, waiting to see if this would end in a handshake or a permanent exile. The most telling reaction came from the OGs of the game. Legends who usually stay out of internet drama began to chime in with subtle warnings. They spoke about the sanctity of family and the dangers of letting the digital world dictate your real-world actions. The consensus among the industry elite seemed to be one of disappointment. This wasn't the hip-hop they wanted to project to the world. It felt less like a battle of wits and more like a public execution of a family's dignity. The brands were silent, the peers were distancing, and the silence was the loudest reaction of all. But then, something happened that no one, not even the most dedicated followers of this saga, saw coming. Just as the world was ready to write off the Harris family and crown 50 Cent the victor of yet another digital war, a new voice entered the conversation. It wasn't a rapper, a lawyer, or a brand representative. It was a resurfaced clip from nearly a decade ago that changed everything. In this clip, which began circulating on a random Tuesday night, a much younger 50 Cent was seen speaking about the importance of family and the one line he would never cross. The clip, which had been buried deep in the archives of a local news interview, showed a rare moment of vulnerability from the power mogul. He spoke about how the pain of losing his mother made him realize that family is the only thing that matters. This resurfaced moment hit the internet like a freight train. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. 50 Cent wasn't just the aggressor anymore. He was being framed by the public as a hypocrite who was doing to T.I.'s family exactly what he claimed should never be done. The emotional leverage shifted in an instant. But the twist didn't stop there. A new player emerged from the shadows. Marquise Jackson, 50 Cent's own estranged son. Marquise, who has had a notoriously fractured relationship with his father, reportedly sent a direct message to King Harris. A screenshot of this alleged DM began to circulate, showing Marquise appearing to offer support to the Harris family. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," the internet screamed. The idea of 50 Cent's own son siding with the people he was currently trying to destroy was a dramatic shift that no one could have scripted. It wasn't just a beef between two rappers anymore. It was a battle of the sons. The untouchable 50 Cent suddenly looked vulnerable, facing a multi-front war involving his own blood. This twist threw the entire controversy into a new dimension. Was King Harris actually working with Marquise? Was this a coordinated strike to hit 50 Cent where it hurt the most? The speculation reached a fever pitch. The King of the South was still in his thoughts, but his son was allegedly building an alliance that could change the power dynamics of the industry forever. The world was no longer just watching a breakdown. They were watching a strategic coup. As the dust begins to settle on this explosive week, we are left with more questions than answers. The image of T.I. breaking down, the sight of King Harris wearing the face of a fallen mother on a t-shirt, and the shadow of 50 Cent's own son looming over the conflict. It's all too much for the culture to process. Is this the end of the Harris family's reign as hip-hop royalty? Or is it just the beginning of a new, more ruthless era for the King of the South? Was King's emotional outburst a genuine breakdown? Or was it a calculated move to draw 50 Cent into a trap he couldn't escape? And perhaps the biggest question of all, where does T.I. go from here? The industry is watching. The fans are divided. Some say T.I. has already lost, while others believe he's just waiting for the right moment to reclaim his crown. Was it all love for his family, or a desperate strategy to stay relevant in a world that's moving faster than he can keep up with? One thing is for certain, the rules of the game have changed forever. No one is untouchable, and no one is safe. We want to hear from you. Who went too far? Was 50 Cent right to bring family into it? Or did King Harris prove that the next generation is even more dangerous than the last? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Is this the end, or just the beginning of the fallout? Stay tuned.